Hi there, this is Solitary Ronin from Solitary Ronin Films, and welcome to our episode of In the Frame. Today we're just going to have a little look at the Imprint box set directed by Sidney Lumet, VOL.1, which obviously suggests there might be another volume. There's Al Pacino in the back, and there's a quote from Lumet: "Commercial success has no relation to a good or bad picture. If my movie has 2 stars in it, I always know it really has 3. The third star is the camera." So we get The Pawnbroker, The Group, The Deadly Affair, Child's Play, not featuring Chucky, The Offence, and Serpico. So I'll just go over these films. Again, it's a lovely box set by Imprint. And on the back you just get the ingredients, if you like. So we have spine number 280, The Pawnbroker with Rod Steiger, 281, The Group from 1966. Deadly Affair is spine number 282. Child's Play without Chucky is number 283. The Offence is 284, and Serpico is 285. Now this is probably a deliberate thing, even though obviously there's people who, you know, buy all the Imprint releases, which I don't do. So some of these films are more famous than others. 3 of them are available on Blu-ray elsewhere. I'm not actually sure. I think 4 of them are actually available, and I have 3 of them on other releases, which I'll get to. But it is a mix of some of his more famous ones and some of his lesser known films. Lumet is an interesting filmmaker who started in TV and continued to do TV and film for the first chunk of his career. He's a filmmaker that I don't think comes up in too many lists of the greatest filmmakers of all time, or when you're compiling those kind of lists, Lumet is usually a kind of afterthought, perhaps because he does lots of different films, which again is shown in this box set. Lots of different types of films. He doesn't kind of focus on one area particularly, and also he tends not to write his films, and he does tend to not have a visual style. So again, the idea of the auteur or whatever doesn't really apply to Lumet, and he was never really interested in that sort of thing. He's far more interested in telling stories and the characters. So you'll never accuse Lumet of being style over substance. I know sometimes, you know, a lot of our favourite filmmakers do have a style, but the camera in Lumet's cinema is more a witness rather than a participant. You know, there's no great shots in Lumet films necessarily. There's no showy camera tricks. It is very gritty and solid and economic, his use of camera. You could argue his most stunning kind of use of the camera was in his debut, 12 Angry Men, just because it was in one room, so you had to kind of be dynamic when you're dealing with lots of characters in a single location. Well, 2 locations, I guess, if you count the bathroom. And you need a dynamic camera in the bathroom. But on the whole, he wasn't a showy director. He wasn't a look at me director. So obviously when you're talking about the greatest directors of all time, sometimes people like Lumet are kind of forgotten about, even though if you look at his batting average, he had a pretty high score in that regard. So we'll start with The Pawnbroker again. Lots of these films are famous, so I don't really need to go into the plot of The Pawnbroker. As Rod Steiger as a Holocaust survivor living in New York. This is a 2-disc, 2 Blu-ray edition. So the film itself is a 2K scan. It's a commentary with Fief Sutton, Mark Lagan and C. Courtney Joyner, 2023. There's a 1992 audio Guardian interview with Rod Steiger. Cinema of the Pill Pool, a Talmudic view of early Holocaust cinema, which is a video essay by Daniel Kramer from 2023. And Safe Within Myself, Remembering Rod Steiger, an interview with stepdaughter of Rod Steiger, Claudia Myers Tschuden from 2023, and the theatrical trailer. But on the second disc, there's a One Step Further, Becoming Lumet, which is a feature documentary, which is about 57 minutes, detailing the first half of Lumet's career, which is really good, from 2023. There's a Perfectly Outrageous Cut, Editing Lumet, featurette with award-winning editor Alan Heim from 2023. His favourite protagonist, Designing Lumet, which is a production designer interview with Philip Rosenberg from 2023. And Man with No Anger, Scoring Lumet, featurette with film historian Daniel Schweiger discussing Quincy Jones from 2023. And there's an Adam Rifkin, Trailers from Hell, on Serpico. So that's the Imprint Pawnbroker. Now I think, was it 2023 BFI released The Pawnbroker? So this is a Blu-ray and DVD, and of course we get the booklet, the BFI, so there's no booklet in the Lumet box set from Imprint. And again, the BFI edition has a different commentary by Maura Spiegel, author of Sidney Lumet, A Life, and Annette Insdorf, author of Indelible Shadows, Film and the Holocaust. There's a piece on Quincy Jones from 1968, which is 21 minutes, where he's interviewed by Bernard Braden, and it has the same Guardian interview with Rod Steiger, which is audio, and that's 113 minutes. And it's also got a random short 10 Bob in Winter from 1963, which is 12 minutes, which is Lloyd Reckford's short film about the intriguing social dynamics that arise as a 10-shilling note is passed around the black community, featuring a sparky jazz soundtrack provided by the Joe Harriott Quintet. So that's the different version of The Pawnbroker that's available. So next is 281, The Group, which is certainly a film that I'd never heard of. And I'll be perfectly honest, this was a film that I left till last to watch. So this is about 8 women who graduate from a single-sex kind of liberal arts college in 1933. So it's an interesting period in American history, and then it follows them up until the start of the Second World War, their relationships, their careers. And again, this is one I left till last, but in actual fact it's one of the best films in the set. And that's why you should really watch films that perhaps sound like they're outside your comfort zone, because this was really good. It's 2.5 hours long, but it doesn't actually seem that way, which is really good. It's from a novel by Mary McCarthy, It's a 2K scan and it has a commentary by Adrian Martin from 2023. So this has lots of familiar faces, even though you probably won't be able to name them outside of Candice Bergen. But there was lots of the women I kind of recognise. They must be from television, because if you look on their film list on Letterboxd, there's not too many that kind of stand out, but I did kind of recognise quite a lot of them. So it's Candice Bergen, Joan Hackett, Elizabeth Hartman, Shirley Knight, Joanne Pettet, Mary Robin Redd, Jessica Walter, Kathleen Widdows, Larry Hagman is one of their husbands, Hal Holbrook, a young Hal Holbrook in 1966, even though he still looks 60 years old. So this perhaps doesn't sound like the greatest film in the world, but it's actually really, really good. As they all they stay in touch but go their separate ways kind of through life. And again, it's balanced, so everybody's flawed. It's not the women are all geniuses and make all the right choices and all the men are idiots. There is actually a balance to it. Everybody's flawed, everybody makes mistakes, everybody has their good points and everybody has their bad points. And it's a 2.5 hour long film that doesn't actually feel like 2.5 hours, because there's nothing worse than a long film that feels long. So 282 is The Deadly Affair, which is a lovely little spy film, of course, with James Mason, Maximilian Schell, Harry Anderson, Harry Andrews and Simone Signoret, Roy Kinnear and Lynn Redgrave. From 1967, Quincy Jones did the music for this one. So on the Imprint edition, it's a 2K scan and there is just a trailer. I should say Imprint are all region free. So The Deadly Affair is on Indicator, spine number 38. And of course with Indicator you do get a booklet in the limited editions. This is a Blu-ray and DVD set they used to do in their early spine numbers. And as usual with Indicator, there's a lot more extras than on the Imprint edition. There's a commentary by Michael Brook and Johnny Mains. There's an NFT lecture, an audio interview with James Mason from 1967, which is 48 minutes. There's a Guardian lecture with Sidney Lumet from 1983, which is 89 minutes, which is an audio when he's interviewed by Derek Malcolm. Lumet's London from 2017 is a 4-minute exploration of the film's locations. A Different Kind of Spy, Paul Dane's Deadly Affair, 2017, which is 17 minutes, where writer David Kippen discusses the life and work of screenwriter Paul Dane. And Take One and Move On, 2017, a 5-minute piece with the camera operator Brian West. And there's a trailer and an image gallery and of course the booklet. So the Indicator edition of The Deadly Affair has a lot more going on it than the Imprint version. So 283, again, another film that I wasn't familiar with. I think I did a random review of this, I can't actually remember. You Only Lose Once. This is Child's Play, again without Chucky. And this has a 2K scan and there's a commentary with Howard S. Berger from 2023 and Designing Sydney, an interview with the production designer Philip Rosenberg from 2023. So this stars James Mason, Robert Preston and Beau Bridges, and it's set in a private boys' school, and Beau Bridges is a young teacher coming in with no idea of what's going on in the school, and James Mason is very much the old school teacher. Robert Preston is kind of not necessarily new school, but certainly lets the boys have a bit more freedom, but there's violence that's going on at the school. Again, there's no booklets in Imprint, and it's actually a really good film. Again, a film that I'd never heard of before. Really good performances. James Mason doing one of his kind of men falling apart at the seams performances, and it's well worth checking out. So number 284, again one of the more famous ones, is The Offence. Arguably Sean Connery's best performance, even though he's playing an absolute scumbag. Ian Bannon's in it and Trevor Howard. It would be wonderful if the other Sidney Lumet Sean Connery collaboration, The Hill, got a Blu-ray released by somebody. It's still only available on DVD. Again, not a politically correct film in some ways, not a pleasant film, but one that really ought to get Blu-ray. So who knows, maybe Volume 2 they might have a Blu-ray premiere of The Hill. That would be fantastic. But this is Sean Connery as a detective in England who is after a child molester, a child killer, who may or may not be Ian Bannon. It's just a brutal film. It shows the effects of investigating these kind of crimes on Sean Connery's home life, and he hits the bottle somewhat, and he's just not particularly a nice person. Yeah, it's one of those great horrible films, but it's well worth seeing. So the extras in this is a 2K scan. There's a commentary by Lee Pfeiffer, Tony Latino, Paul Scrabo from 2023, Sidney Lumet, Childhood Elegy. There's a video essay by Howard S. Burger from 2023. There's an interview with second AD Michael Stevenson from 2022. An interview with the composer Harrison Birtwistle, that can't be a real name, 2015. Interview with stage director Christopher Morahan, 2015. Interview with assistant art director Chris Burke from 2015. An interview with costume designer Evangeline Harrison from 2015. And an interview with sound mixer Simon Kay from 2016. And the theatrical trailer. Now, The Offence is also available in Region B Masters of Cinema. It's by number 110. And again, this is a Blu-ray DVD with a booklet. So the MOC edition has no commentary, and it has the same interviews with Chris Morahan, Chris Burke, Evangeline Harrison, and now Sir Harrison Birtwistle. So in actual fact, the imprint has a little more on the extras than the 2015 MOC release, which is Region B locked. And then finally, a film that I've seen countless times but I never actually had it in the collection, so I didn't have it in DVD or Blu-ray, is of course Serpico. This is by number 285, with one of Al Pacino's best performances. So this is 1973, so this is between the Godfather films. Then obviously we do Dog Day Afternoon with Lumet and go on from there, so quite a run. You know, you could argue then Lumet did Prince in the City with Treat Williams, which is kind of a similar film. This is available in 4K, Kino Lorber. But unfortunately the only extra on this edition is the fact that it's just a 2K scan, so there's literally no extras on this edition of Serpico. I don't have, as I said, I don't have Serpico in any other format, so I'm not sure what the extras are on the 4K by Kino Lorber. I know Roger Kirby, if you want to go over to his channel, he did a review of the 4K of Kino, so he'll be able to tell you what extras are on that, but there's no extras on the imprint on Serpico, which is perhaps a little bit disappointing. But as I said, I never had this film on any format, bizarrely, even though it's a film that I've seen like 4 or 5 times. So that's just an overview of Sidney Lumet Volume 1. Again, so some of these are more famous and have other editions. I don't know whether Imprint do, I mean, sometimes they do what Indicator do and release single titles from box sets as standard editions rather than buying the box sets, which certainly are quite expensive, especially if you're shipping them from Australia. Obviously it's Volume 1, so as I said, there might be a Volume 2, and hopefully it's some of the lesser known ones, or the ones that don't have decent releases, like The Hill with Sean Connery, which would be quite fantastic. So hopefully that's given you a little bit of an overview. Sidney Lumet, who, as I said, is a very good director, who does tend to get forgotten about when people like me are making our favourite directors lists and great director lists. Again, I went over the reasons perhaps why that is, but it is a interesting box set, especially if you don't have the other films, and again it's a mix of some of his more famous and a couple of his less well known films. So thanks very much for watching. Please let me know if you've seen all these Lumet films and what you think of them, and hopefully you'll join me again for more episodes of In the Frame. This is Solitary Ronin from Solitary Ronin Films saying farewell